I am super excited about this one. This is a brand new live series from NVIDIA where we're trying to pull back the curtain on how AI factories are actually being built. I'm your host, Kaushik Shirhatti, and what we will be doing is we are going to bring in folks, for every episode where we're bringing folks who are actually in the trenches making AI work, folks within NVIDIA and also from the industry. And so I want to quickly introduce our guest here. Our first topic today is talking about enterprise reference architectures. And I couldn't think of a better person than bringing in Shashank Sabhlok, who is our product manager in our enterprise product manager group. And Shashank is one of the architects behind these enterprise reference architectures. So, Shashank, you're our first guest. So, no pressure. Welcome.
That's awesome, Kaushik. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So before I go to Shashank, since this is our first series, I wanted to give a little bit context on what we are trying to do here. What we want to do is we are going to look at the AI factory holistically, and we're going to look at different pieces that go into the AI factory. And in each episode, we are going to go deeper into different parts and components that go make that AI factory with NVIDIA solutions, as well as everything from our ecosystem. And what really has happened with AI, as most of you guys know, is, in the last 2 years, things have changed very rapidly. ChatGPT came in, and it changed the world, right? Drove massive AI adoption. DeepSeek then followed up with like model efficiencies. And now we are all blessed to live in this world of agentic AI where things are changing constantly and sometimes too fast. Sometimes it can be too overwhelming. And with all these agent frameworks, with OpenClaw, these agents are reasoning, they're thinking, they're working continuously. The agents are not sleeping, right? Some of us humans have to sleep. And so what that has done is that it has made us think about infrastructure, both software and hardware infrastructure, in a different light. The inference performance requirements have gone up 10x, 50x, 100x, 500x in sometimes. And so what enterprises are really looking for is a predictable, scalable solution where they can scale out these solutions, they can produce tokens in a consistent way, and at the same time think about governance, security, sovereignty, and all of those things that go into building an AI factory. And so, for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to go deep into our enterprise reference architectures. But think about our reference architectures as the blueprint for the AI factories. We have the enterprise reference architectures that focus on the hardware, and then we have the enterprise validated designs that really focus on all the goodness of software, not just what NVIDIA does, but every company, every partner in our ecosystem that is contributing to ultimately serve the purpose of AI. And so with that, Shashank, let's start here. Let's go to the basics.
Yeah.
I want to understand, what was the basic genesis of enterprise reference architectures? Why did you guys think about building these ERAs?
The goal for the enterprise reference architecture, Kaushik, was straightforward. We wanted to accelerate time of deployment for enterprise customers while still getting predictable scale and performance out of their AI infrastructure. And in support of this, we developed these guidelines that we call the enterprise reference architectures, and we work with our OEM partners. The thing is, we actually build out these reference architectures internally and validate them. So the idea was to capture those patterns and make them reusable for enterprises. And they're even more so relevant now, I would say, in this agentic AI era, Kaushik, right? Because I would say we're going through something called an inference tsunami. Agents, as you said, don't sleep. And it's not like circa 2022 where you prompt your ChatGPT a tab on Chrome and it gives you a response. Agents reason, they retrieve information, they call tools, and they keep running, right? Which means token consumption has risen dramatically. And so the whole rationale behind the AI factory is that we want token generation to be efficient. That means we get the best cost per million tokens and the best tokens per watt. And this only happens, there's extreme co-designed across network storage so that we can get that close to linear efficiency.
Got it. I mean, I think that's a great point. But I just want to make sure that, for our viewers here,
Yeah,
when you talk about the enterprise reference architecture, you're not just talking about a white paper. You're talking about, the things that, do you test them? Do we actually build them? How do we think about building those things?
precisely, right? So we actually, all of our enterprise RAs, we actually test them end to end. We build it out in our labs, we validate it, we make this, we based on NVIDIA certified system servers. Those servers themselves are like a known good quantity because they've gone through single node or multi-node tests before we even like are in a position to use them or even recommend them. On top of that, we have standardized on this concept of a scalable unit. Now, a scalable unit is 4 nodes, right? So once a customer proves things out at a smaller scale, they can then grow in a very predictable manner from 4 nodes to 8 nodes, 12, 16, and so on.
I always, whenever I see these things, I love validation, right? I love like proof points. And I love that the emphasis that we have here is on testing the system, because a lot of times we put a bomb together and it's supposed to work that way, but I'm sure all of us have lived through this, that it's like trying to cook a cake, bake a cake here, right? You have all the ingredients, the bomb, but not always it turns the same way,
Yeah,
right? Is that
exactly.
how you think about it in production? What works, what doesn't work?
Yeah, so Kaushik, so that's the thing. We don't want the enterprise RAs just to be a list of components or just to be a bomb on a spreadsheet, right? Or a bill of materials. We actually build out these clusters and we run workloads on them. So we make design choices for these clusters across our NVIDIA certified systems, east-west networking, north-south networking, which we also call storage networking. And so that when our system partners or OEM partners, we call them, go to market with their AI factory solutions, our system partners being Cisco, Dell, HPE, Lenovo, Supermicro, it behaves like a known quantity, and it's not just a science project, right? And on top of that, when our partners go to market with their AI factory solutions, they bring it back to us, and they go through something called a design review board, where we thoroughly review their offering, and we give them a thumbs up, right? So I think Kaushik, the summary, like you always say to me, easy is hard, and we do the hard work upfront. So our OEM partners and our and enterprise customers don't have to live through that complexity themselves, and they have very clean deployments, and which ultimately leads to faster time to first token.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And how do we keep up with the hardware roadmap, right? I mean, I think the whole world knows, right? I mean, Jensen and the team, we've put NVIDIA on a very, very aggressive roadmap, right? We have a 1-year cadence, and not just for the GPUs, right? A lot of times people think it's just GPUs, it's the entire company. It's all the software, it's all the networking, all the components in this. How do the RAs keep up with that?
No, absolutely. So we treat the RAs as dynamic, not static. Not static. On the GPU side, as you said, we moved on from Hopper to Blackwell, and now we are very much entering the Rubin era. Similarly, on the networking side for switches, we've gone from Spectrum 4 to Spectrum 6. DPUs, we've gone from BlueField 2 to BlueField 4. So yeah, we obviously evolve our designs over time to incorporate these latest and greatest technologies, which ultimately gives you forms the backbone of a modern AI cluster. But Kaushik, what's interesting is though that these RAs, I've seen like adoption across horizontally across a variety of use cases and industries, right? So we see these RAs showing up in manufacturing, healthcare, retail, life sciences, and then of course sectors such as financial services or government, where where performance and clean deployments are absolutely critical.
Can you maybe share like one or two concrete examples for our viewers, and obviously how much you can share?
Yeah, no, sure. So I think an example that stands out to me is this one manufacturing customer we worked with that had I would say 22,000 practitioners of AI. I think everyone's going to be an AI practitioner moving forward, right? They were leveraging an AI factory that was based on our enterprise RA almost exactly as is. And the feedback we got was that was exactly what they needed, right? It minimized any guesswork. There were no missing pieces, no like running around for cables, right? And the deployment was absolutely clean, and therefore, as I say, the time to first token was fairly was fast. They also appreciated, for example, some of the design decisions we made in our enterprise is, for example, the layer 3 dynamically routed model in networking and not using a layer 2 heavy design. It just, at the end of the day, meant that the deployment was clean and performance was optimal, and now they were in a position to test things out and then scale in the future if they need be.
Yeah, and I think that's my experience too
Right.
with a lot of our customers. When they first start out with their AI journey, right, it's not about just one hardware component or the performance in the hardware component or different software layers. It's that factory coming together.
Yeah.
And it comes through because there's a maniacal focus from NVIDIA, from all of our ecosystem partners, to really test it out, to really think about it as a relay race, right? It's amazing if you have 4 sprinters, but unless you have really you work and practice on the handoff every day when nobody's looking, that's when the real magic happens. That's when the compounding effect of each of the component, whether it's hardware, software, the performance kind of really shines through. How do you think about for connecting something to tangible, right?
Yeah.
So when so folks understand the importance of the RA now, what are the configurations that what are the paths for enterprise buyers or people who are making decisions to go look at when it comes to different configurations?
Yeah. So no, before I get there, I really love your example about the relay race, right? And I think that co-design between all the systems working together is exactly what the RAs are there for. But coming to the tangible examples, if you want to buy an NVIDIA AI factory today, you absolutely go work with an OEM system partner or a channel partner. But enterprises were telling us they wanted to see these example configurations to really guide their decision making, right? So we've published 3 exemplar AI factories that are now also available on our enterprise RA docs page. So namely the RTX PRO AI factory, the HGX AI factory, and the NVL72 AI factory. I'll go in depth into them in a minute, but I think it's important to know that for an enterprise customer, we will see a combination of these of these AI factories. For example, they could have an RTX AI factory that perhaps they're using at a departmental level, right, for inferencing. But at an organizational scale, they're using an HGX AI factory for large-scale model training or large-scale model inference, right? And in fact, what I just described to you is very similar to what we do at NVIDIA in IT within our AI factory. But maybe it makes sense, Kaushik, to just dive into the 3 AI factories really quickly. So the RTX Pro AI factory is where I say is how you start. It's a great on-ramp. It's RTX Pro Blackwell data center GPUs. It's PCIe based. It's air cooled. Fits into an existing data center setup that enterprises may have. Perfect for agentic AI, inference, simulation, as well as visualization use cases. So it covers a broad variety of use cases based on our RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell Server Edition GPUs with frame buffer of 96 gigs, and it's a great way to, I would say, start, right, and experiment. Then I would say the next AI factory, which is the HGX AI factory, is how you scale. And then this is, I would say, it's the high performance enterprise AI platform. It's when you have use cases focused on AI training, fine tuning, large scale inference. This architecture is based on our HGX 8-way design and uses our Blackwell Ultra B300 GPUs with GPU memory of 270 gigs. And I would say it's more efficient from a cost per million tokens or token per watt standpoint. And it's really designed for those large workloads. And then the third one, which I say is for frontier scale AI, is our NVL72 AI factory. And that's all about rack scale AI deployments, delivering the ultimate performance. And you would liken that to NVL72 AI factory being used for things like super large models, mixture of expert models, real-time AI reasoning, and it would give you the absolute best tokens per watt that we can deliver in a rack scale system, scaling up to hundreds of megawatts or gigawatts. the NVL72 AI factory, I think now, it's based on Grace Blackwell now or Vera Rubin tomorrow. It really pushes the envelope with big model counts and context windows. And so how I would like to think of these three in summary is that, RTX Pro AI Factory, universal acceleration, HGX AI Factory, if you're super serious about high performance AI, and then NVL72 is when you're going up to the frontier and you want giga scale training. And again, I say that for enterprise customers, we see a combination of these. They may start in one place, and then as they discover more use cases or their use cases scale, they can expand into HGX or even eventually NVL72 territory.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's kind of crazy. Like all the nuances and all the differences that the team and all of our OEM partners, everybody has to deal with when it comes to all the different flavors.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important point that you said, because I want to make sure that it's very clear to everybody. Is that a lot of times when people think about AI factories, people have this image of like we're talking about like massive gigawatt factories, and we have tons of those factories, right? People who are doing 100,000 GPU plus at like massive scale, the foundation model builders. But an AI factory can start with like a DGX Spark, right? It can be an employee with a DGX Spark, and that's your mini AI factory where essentially you're producing tokens, you're producing intelligence, and then it can scale up to, like as you said, from RTX Pro to HGX, NVL8 systems, to NVL72 systems. But ultimately, what we're trying to figure out is you're going to always start with the use cases. You're going to start with the workloads, and then figure out what is the right path for you and for your company to go down. And we have all those flavors. But what I do love about it is that the base tenant, the base model is of the enterprise RA is very similar, right? So it's based on a basic foundation model.
Exactly, right? So these AI factory configurations, it's backed by our enterprise RAs that define these hardware patterns, the networking topology, and all the operational assumptions that come with it. So again, that's NVIDIA certified systems. We have the 4-node scalable unit concept, and they're based on NVIDIA Spectrum-X Ethernet networking. So whether a customer starts with deploying an RTX Pro AI factory or jumps right to HGX or ultimately like challenges the frontier with NVL72, they can be sure of that that consistent validated architecture, and that consistency is what reduces risks and accelerates time to deployment and delivers that high performance.
Got it. And we have a lot of our viewers here, and we'll have more viewers as we do more of these episodes. What are some of the key takeaway, or what is the actually one takeaway that you would like our viewers to kind of leave with today?
Yeah, I think what I'd say is that AI factories, of course, they require the AI apps and the models, but they also need to be built with a solid infrastructure foundation, and that's exactly what the enterprise RAs give you. They're tested, they're modular, and they're ready. They're ready to deploy to our OEM partners again, such as Cisco, Dell, HP, Lenovo, Supermicro. If you align to the RTX Pro, the HGX, or the NVL72 AI factory, you're not just buying hardware. You're adopting an architecture that's been exercised, tuned, and validated, and also been set up to evolve with NVIDIA's roadmap. And that's eventually what will shorten your time from, hey, I have an idea, to serving tokens to real users at scale.
I love the idea to tokens, right?
Yeah.
Basically, you've just synthesized the whole show in 5 words, and you made my job easier. So thank you so much, Shashank. I think it was great having you here. This was our first episode. You broke it down, the enterprise arrays very nicely, and hopefully it gave our viewers a good understanding of why we build enterprise arrays. And like I always say, you cannot build an AI factory on shaky grounds, and the enterprise array really laid the foundation of everything that our partners and our customers want to build when it comes to AI factories. So thank you again. And that's a wrap for our episode number 1 of AI Factory Insider. And if this was useful, please like it, please share it with your friends who are knee deep in building out AI factories. And we will be back with more conversations going deep on AI factories. So thank you again.